There is a certain kind of person who smiles warmly and says yes while something deep inside them quietly screams no. You watch them agree to the extra shift, to the last-minute favor, to the dinner they never wanted to attend. Their mouth moves one way. Their soul moves another. They carry this invisible weight everywhere. Every yes they did not mean is another stone dropped into a bag they drag through the day. They look agreeable on the outside, generous, even joyful. But behind closed doors, they are exhausted in ways they cannot fully explain to anyone. But if you know someone like this, or if you are someone like this, there is something deeply important you need to understand. This is not weakness. This is not people-pleasing in a simple or shallow sense. This is a profound psychological pattern with real roots and real consequences. Today we are going to decode the psychology of people who always say yes but mean no. Why they became this way. What it does to their nervous system, their relationships, their identity, and most importantly, what they can finally do to begin living in the truth of what they actually feel. So why does this happen? Why would a person consistently betray their own inner truth just to keep the surface of their relationship smooth? The answer is not simple. Because this pattern does not come from one single place. It comes from two very different origins that produce the exact same behavior. The first group is born with what researchers call sensory processing sensitivity, or SPS. These are highly sensitive persons, HSPs, a term coined by psychologist Elaine Aron. Their nervous systems are literally wired to process stimulation more deeply. They feel conflict, disapproval, and social tension at an intensity most people never experience. The second group was built this way by survival. Imagine a child in a household where a parent's mood decided whether the day was safe or dangerous. That child learned very early that their own preferences were a liability. Expressing a no meant punishment, withdrawal, or emotional chaos. So they buried the no. They said yes instead. And they survived. In both cases, the brain structure most responsible is the amygdala, the brain's ancient alarm system. In chronic people pleasers, the amygdala fires intensely at the mere possibility of social disapproval. It treats someone's disappointment like a physical threat. The body responds with the same stress chemistry as actual danger. Cortisol floods the system. Over time, saying yes became the only known way to turn off that alarm. The behavior that once protected them from real harm became their default identity. They stopped choosing to say yes. They started being unable to say no. The survival strategy had quietly become the personality itself. So when this pattern enters adult life, it does not stay in one corner. It spreads into careers, into friendships, into romantic relationships, into the way they respond to a simple text message at midnight. The child who once needed this armor is gone. But the armor never came off. The first sign is that they agree in the moment and resent in silence afterward. It happens in an instant. A colleague asks them to cover a shift they absolutely cannot afford to lose. Their brain floods with cortisol. Their amygdala fires. And before their prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking brain, can even weigh the options, yes has already left their mouth. Picture Sarah. She is sitting across from her manager after a long week. Her manager asks her to stay late again on Friday. She already had plans. Already needed the rest. Already felt stretched thin. But she looks up and hears herself say, "Of course, no problem," as if some other version of her spoke. What happened in Sarah's brain is called amygdala hijacking. The emotional center fired so fast and so intensely that the rational prefrontal cortex had no time to intervene. Disapproval felt like danger. Agreement felt like survival. The yes was not a choice. It was a reflex built over years of conditioning. The emotional consequence is a quiet, slow-burning resentment. Not at the manager. At herself. She drives home replaying the moment, asking why she cannot just say one simple word. That resentment accumulates. It builds into exhaustion, into cynicism, into a creeping feeling that no one truly sees her. Because she never lets them. And this resentment does not stay quiet forever. It eventually leaks. In a sharp tone. In a sudden withdrawal. in tears that seem to come from nowhere but have actually been collecting for months. The yes that was never true becomes a wound that never fully heals. The second sign is that they feel physically uncomfortable when someone is unhappy with them. Not slightly uncomfortable. Physically uncomfortable. Their chest tightens. Their stomach turns. Their hands may even tremble. This is not sensitivity being dramatic. This is the insular cortex, the brain region responsible for processing bodily feelings and social pain, responding as if something is genuinely wrong. Imagine Marcus. He sends a message to a friend suggesting a different restaurant for dinner. The friend replies with a simple, "I was really looking forward to the other place." That is all. No anger. No conflict. Just mild disappointment. And Marcus spends the next 2 hours feeling like he has committed something terrible. This response is driven by the insular cortex and heightened interoception, the brain's awareness of internal bodily states. In people with this pattern, interoception is amplified. Social discomfort is not just felt emotionally. It is felt physically, as a real sensation in the body. Disapproval becomes something they can literally feel in their chest. The consequence is that they learn to avoid this sensation at any cost. They stop voicing preferences. They stop suggesting alternatives. They start mapping every social interaction for potential disappointment and rerouting before it can happen. They become experts at reading the room, and prisoners of what they find there. Slowly, they stop knowing what they actually want at all. When you spend years overriding your preferences, the signal weakens. They can tell you exactly what everyone around them needs. But ask them what they want for dinner and they will genuinely feel lost. Their inner voice has been quieted for so long it barely whispers anymore. The third sign is that they over-explain and over-apologize when they do manage to say no. On the rare occasion they refuse something, it does not come out clean. It comes out buried under layers of justification. "I am so sorry, I would love to, normally I would absolutely say yes, it is just that right now, unfortunately, I hope you understand." Think of Elena. Her sister asks her to babysit on a day Elena has a rare, precious afternoon to herself. Elena does not simply say she is unavailable. She constructs a small legal defense. She lists every reason. She apologizes 3 times before finishing the sentence. She checks her sister's face repeatedly for signs of forgiveness. The psychology here involves what researchers call theory of mind, the brain's ability to simulate the emotional states of others. In chronic people pleasers, this ability is overactive. They are running constant simulations of how the other person is feeling and updating their own behavior in real time to manage those feelings. It is cognitive empathy turned into a full-time job. The emotional consequence is deep shame around the act of having needs. The over-explanation is not really for the other person. It is a preemptive shield against the internal verdict that says wanting something for themselves is selfish. The no requires a court case because somewhere inside them, the verdict is already guilty. And the tragedy is this. The more they over-explain, the less their no is believed or respected. People sense the door is still open. They push. And the people pleaser, exhausted from the effort it already took to say no once, often caves. The armor they built ends up leaving them more exposed. The fourth sign is that they feel an almost compulsive need to fix other people's emotions. They walk into a room and if anyone is unhappy, their entire nervous system orients toward that person like a compass needle finding north. They cannot relax until the unhappy person is okay again. Their own peace is held hostage to the moods of everyone around them. Picture David at a family dinner. His father makes an offhand comment and his mother goes quiet. No one else seems to notice. But David notices. For the rest of the meal he is not really at dinner. He is managing. Making extra jokes. Filling silences. Steering conversations. He does not eat properly. He is too busy keeping everyone afloat. This behavior is driven by hyperactive mirror neurons, the neural cells responsible for feeling what others feel. Combined with a hypervigilant amygdala, these individuals do not just observe another person's discomfort. They absorb it. The boundary between their own emotional state and someone else's becomes extremely thin. Neuroscience calls this elevated affective empathy. The consequence is that they are never truly off duty. Even in their closest relationships, even in their safest spaces, they are monitoring. Their nervous system never fully deactivates. They experience what psychologists describe as empathy fatigue, a deep depletion that comes not from giving too much but from never being allowed, even by themselves, to stop. What begins as love and attentiveness slowly hollows them. They wake up tired. They give all day and come home to find they have nothing left for themselves, or even for the people they love most. They start to feel invisible, not because no one sees them, but because they have made themselves so completely about others that they have lost track of where they end and everyone else begins. The fifth sign is that they struggle intensely with the default mode network, the DMN. This is the brain's internal storytelling system, the network that activates when the mind is at rest and begins replaying social interactions. In people with this pattern, the DMN does not rest. It reviews. It interrogates. It relentlessly re-examines every yes that should have been a no. Imagine lying in bed at midnight replaying a conversation from 3 days ago. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I agree too fast? Did they sense I was not really okay with it? Will they bring it up? Should I message them first? The mind spins in quiet, relentless circles while the body lies still and the clock ticks forward. Psychologists call this metacognition, thinking about one's own thinking. In chronic people-pleasers, metacognition becomes a trap. They do not just have the experience. They then watch themselves have it. They evaluate how well they managed it. They score their own performance. This creates what researchers call analysis paralysis, an inability to simply be, because the mind is always reviewing. The consequence is that even moments of rest do not restore them. They wake up tired because sleep came after an hour of mental replaying. They cannot enjoy a pleasant evening because part of them is somewhere else, auditing a conversation that already ended. Their present moment is perpetually colonized by the fear of having done something wrong. And the loneliness in this is enormous. They are surrounded by people and exhausted by thought. They are helpful to everyone and understood by almost no one. Because the real them, the one who was tired, who said no inside before saying yes outside, that version never gets to show up. That version waits alone behind the performance. And here is what most people never stop to realize. These are not people who lack self-respect. They are not weak or naive. They are often some of the most emotionally intelligent, deeply caring, profoundly aware human beings in any room. They say yes because somewhere in their history, their yes was the only thing that kept them safe. That deserves not judgment. That deserves extraordinary compassion. So what can they do? They cannot simply turn this off. The amygdala does not unlearn a decade of conditioning because someone told them to be more assertive. The pattern is wired deep. But there are 3 principles, grounded in neuroscience and psychology, that can begin to genuinely and slowly rewrite it. Not overnight. But truly. The first principle is the pause before the answer. Neuroscience shows that inserting even a brief delay between a request and a response allows the prefrontal cortex time to come online before the amygdala fires its reflex. Practically, this means training themselves to say one phrase, "Let me check and get back to you." That small sentence is not a stall. It is a lifeline. The second principle is body-based truth-telling. Before answering any significant request, they learn to consult the body first. Not the mind, which will immediately begin calculating social consequences, but the body. Does this feel open or closed? Light or heavy? The insular cortex already knows the truth. The practice is simply learning to listen to it before the mouth moves. The third principle is tolerating discomfort without rescuing it. When they say no and the other person is disappointed, they practice sitting with that discomfort rather than immediately moving to repair it. Each time they survive someone's disappointment without collapsing, the amygdala receives new data. Disapproval did not destroy the relationship. The world did not end. A new neural pathway begins to form. When they practice this letting go, something remarkable happens. The yes they eventually give becomes real. It carries actual weight and actual warmth. People feel the difference. Relationships stop feeling like obligations and begin feeling like genuine choices. And slowly, the exhausted person beneath all the performing starts to breathe again, as if a room that was always locked has finally been opened from the inside. They are not a laser anymore, burning themselves out trying to illuminate every shadow in everyone else's life. They become something gentler and truer. A warm candle. Steady. Present. Chosen. Not bright for everyone everywhere, but genuinely, beautifully, sustainably warm for the people and moments that are actually theirs to hold. These are people who think deeply, feel enormously, and carry others with a tenderness that the world does not always see or acknowledge. They are not broken. They are not too much. They have simply been asking their nervous system to do something it was never designed to sustain alone. And they deserve to know that the work of becoming honest with themselves is not selfish. It is the most loving thing they will ever do. If this feels familiar, leave a comment below and tell us which sign fits you most. Was it the resentment that builds in silence? The physical discomfort when someone is disappointed? The midnight mind that never stops reviewing? Share it. Because naming these things is how we begin to loosen their grip. And you might find that someone else needed to read exactly what you wrote. If this video helped you feel a little lighter, a little more understood, press like and share it with someone who might need to hear this today. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe, because every week we go deep into the psychology of the human experience, and we would love to have you here for all of it.